Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have a very special and important show talking about something that doesn't get talked about enough, and that's EMFs, electromagnetic fields. We live in a soup, a veritable stew of EMFs between cell phones, Wi-Fi, computers, electricity running through the walls. Everywhere we look, our cars, everywhere, we are living in a vibration, a frequency that is actually very unhealthy for us. There have been very few people who have known about this over the course of decades, but in fact some have. And one of them is on our show today, Dr. Alaleh. Dr. Alaleh has an RN, she has a PhD in nursing, and she's getting a PhD, a second PhD now, essentially in public health from Columbia University. She's in New York to help present at this conference at Columbia University on these subjects. So it's really a blessing to have her with us today to educate us all, because any number of different diseases are being exacerbated and new ones are actually being formed as a result of this condition in which we're all living and have very few remedies for. But in fact, by the end of the show, you'll be learning about some of the remedies that we actually have in hand. So stay tuned and enjoy Dr. Alaleh as I plan to. Great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here. And
Good to see you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with your listening audience.
Absolutely. Welcome to, as we like to say, A Better World.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
It's a better world because you're here too.
Well, I'll receive that coming from you, Mitchell.
Good, very good, very good. So listen, how did you get into this, Dr. Alaleh? What is it that stimulated you, or should I say electrified you into this field?
Well, it's amazing. I actually was a professor of nursing education, and I relocated from Washington, D.C. Back to Ohio when my husband died. I brought a brand new house, and my children were American exchange students in Penang, Malaysia. So they weren't in this house, and I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker with heart issues, rapid heart rate, sleep apnea, gastric reflux, depression, rapid weight gain, sustained chronic bronchitis, and my
sick building syndrome.
Yes, classic sick building syndrome. And the doctors were telling me it was grief. And so, to make a long story short, my son came home from Malaysia. He came in this house, and he became somebody we didn't know. This profound 7 foot, 300-pound child, 17-year-old.
7 foot.
7 foot. 1 inch shy of being 7 foot, is now has this belligerent, intolerable behavior. I mean, disrespect.
He had never lived in that house, and why would you have been grieving? I mean, this was before you moved.
This when we brought this house, my husband had died.
He had just died.
We had buried him in Washington, D.C.
Okay,
and we were
got
relocating back to Ohio. Which is my birthplace. So my husband didn't want me to raise our children by myself. So he sends me home. I buy this house in a very affluent neighborhood, and you think you do a basic home inspection of termites and does the roof leak and all that other kind of stuff. Never did I think to do a radon test or a test of electrical transients or electrical radiation in the electric system, and also the forensics of chemicals off-gassing in the house from the manufacturing around. So I'm getting sicker and sicker. My son comes home, he gets sick. And I said, well, maybe we have displaced grief, so we're going to go to the counselor. We get to the counselor, he says, let me do a battery of tests. At the end of doing the test, he said, Doc, we had a serious problem. We need to send your son to see the neurologist. He went to have a brain scan done.
So in other words, not a psychiatrist, but a neurologist.
So we went to the psychologist first. And the psychologist said, we have something serious going on. And he sent us to see the medical doctor, the neurologist.
Right.
My son had a brain scan done that showed he was losing his theta wave. That's the wave that manages your emotion. And he was losing.
That's also what we get when we sleep to regenerate ourselves.
Exactly.
Theta and delta.
Exactly. And he had alterations in his alpha wave, which is your reasoning and your cognitive skills. So learning almost shut down in him.
Boy.
And so what I thought was going to be 3 days of testing ended up being almost 8 months. And my son it's like his
all neurological testing?
Yes. Neurological, cognitive, some psychological, but his whole world just stopped. I mean, he lost his sense of perception to things. He was embarking upon learning how to drive. All of a sudden, he became so overwhelmed he couldn't judge the cars. His distance.
In other words, his perception was thrown off, as well as spatial relations. Yeah,
exactly. And so it was a nightmare, because what do you do and where do you go?
Right.
And I was totally dumbfounded. But I was.
And before that, he had been a good student. Yes. He had been intellectually acute.
This child was a BC student, but he was personality personified. He was a profound martial arts. He made the world touring team. He's been to more than 29 different countries. He was training in Olympic Village to actually be an Olympian in the area of CLAT martial arts. And he was training with the world champion in CLAT martial arts.
So what happened after the testing?
After the testing and the sustained hospitalization period, then I was so fascinated by the machine they were using to test his brain.
Which machine?
Which is called a PSE, psychosomatic energetics. And they take the brainwave off of the left wrist, the measurement. And I said, I was feeling sicker. I said, well, maybe I can do this. I want to go learn how to do these brain scans, because I was fascinated with, how am I going to help this child in life?
Of course.
I mean, he's 17 years old. Is he going to be stuck here the rest of his life? And so what happened was, I came to Toronto, Canada, took the training on the machine. The program is being directed by Dr. Ulrich Bannis, who has offices in Switzerland, Germany, and Toronto. And after I took the training, I began to work with him, and so that I could transition him out of the hospital and know how to adjust his care. But at the training, a doctor from Russia walked up to me and said, you have ants in your house? I said, you mean insects? She said, yes. I said, I have a terrible ant problem. Why would you ask? She said, ants only infest houses that are too toxic to live in. I said, you have got to be kidding me. She said, no. If you have ants, you need to contact an engineer to come immediately to check your home. And I contacted one of my colleagues who was a medical doctor, and I said, I met this Russian doctor who told me that ants are a sign that you are too toxic and you need to have your home checked. And she said, I know a nuclear engineer from the Navy who is a consultant in this area, and so forth and so on. And she contacted him, and they brought their team to my home and said, sit down. They checked every inch of my house. They said, lady, we don't know how to tell you this, but you're living in 7,000 times the amount of electrical radiation that you should be exposed to. I said, you have got to be kidding me. When they plugged in the meter that showed the biometric reading of radiation in the wall, safe levels should be under 25. Mine were over 15.
What accounts for that? I mean, do you have 1,000 computers in there? I mean, what?
No. What was accounting for that was the fact that it was a totally electric home. 3 blocks down the street was a radio tower. Antenna,
cell phone tower?
An antenna for the radio station. And we were getting transmission from that. I had installed a satellite dish and had it disconnected to go to Time Warner Cable. It was not properly grounded when I had it disconnected. So it was attracting a lot of stray voltage.
I bet that was a lot of it. Did the other houses in the area have the same kind of problem that yours did?
Absolutely. It's amazing. My development had the highest incident of cancer.
Oh, my.
And the highest incident of Parkinson's disease and autistic children.
Oh, my.
Yes, and we're talking about a development of about $200,000 to $400,000 homes.
So how did you then go from that to finding the inventor of this answer to the problem?
What a fantastic question. I just started talking to God, and I said, Lord, have mercy upon me. Lord, have mercy upon my children. And this engineer became so passionate about helping me to save my family. And not just my family. He was aware that it was a problem that was impacting
systemic.
The city, perhaps even the state. And so he picked up the phone and called Texas, Austin, Texas, to a company called Forum Technologies that was working with the Power Guard. And he had been studying the Power Guard, and he said, Dr. Alaleh, he actually got a previous capacitor, but it was not strong enough to lower down the radiation levels in our house. So he got this capacitor, and he told me, he said, this capacitor is the Rolls Royce of the industry. It works phenomenally. And we plugged it in, and before I could count to 3, the Power Guard had taken the levels in my house from 1,500 down to 9. It was off the chart. I was totally blown away. And I said, you know, nursing...
And you were measuring this with what?
I was measuring using a gram spectrometer that is from the U.S. military. This engineer had these Army instruments that he was using to measure out my house. Mm-hmm. And so he validated and verified and quantified the numbers, but he also was doing research on this particular technology because he was using it for other buildings and other projects that he had.
To neutralize the electromagnetic fields in those buildings.
So he's the expert. I mean, he selects this technology for military infrastructures and for all kind of commercial projects and residential projects that he was on. And so he had a knowledge base, and I'm paying him to be a consultant to save us.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm, you know, with his extensive history with the military, and he's highly regarded and highly respected by the medical community, he was so passionate that he actually volunteered about twice a month to have these little luncheons and breakfast meetings with the doctors and groups of engineers to help us understand how we needed a greater consciousness that the environment was creating diseases with our patients.
Environmental pollution.
Exactly.
I mean, there's an entire specialty in medicine for environmental pollution. Environmental science.
And we can no longer ignore that, because now the World Health Organization has rendered diagnostic codes that are telling us people are getting hypersensitivity to chemicals. People are getting hypersensitivity
allergic reactions
to radon. People are getting hypersensitivity to electric
radon has been known for decades.
Exactly. But now, with the research that Lisa Jackson at the Environmental Protection Agency is directing, it's showing that we thought radon just was associated with lung cancer. Now we're learning radon is associated with all kinds of cancers and all kinds of lung diseases. And what we've also learned is that when you have high electrical transients in your wall, it can make gases more potent and chemicals more potent. And so I began that
it acts as an amplifier or a potentizer of whatever it is that's present.
Exactly. That's why I was so dumbfounded when this engineer taught us for about 8 months. And then he told me about a training program at Westinghouse in Pittsburgh that I really needed to investigate the environmental radiation and its impact on health. And I would benefit by taking this class, so I went to Westinghouse and took that class. There's a national board, the National Radon Board. They teach you all about radon and its interface with electrical radiation, which is non-ionizing radiation. Radon is a type of ionizing radiation which poisons the blood. But electricity is so diabolical that it actually makes the blood thick. It disassociates oxygen. When I say disassociate oxygen,
I see.
You know, it's kind of like
it's creating rouleau in the blood, clumping.
Exactly.
Aggregation.
And it makes blood clots. So all these people with all this thick blood and all these blood clots, that's coming from your sustained exposure.
Essentially, this is free radical damage that you're talking about because you're losing an electron.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it makes your blood thick, it makes you have blood clots, and it makes your cells imbalanced. It's kind of like being out on a lake and you're rowing in a boat and all of a sudden something makes a wave and your boat flips over and you capsize. Well, you have the boat in the water and you're in the water, but you can't function to row the boat because the boat's upside down. Well, that can happen with your red blood cells. When you come into a highly electric charged field, you have your older red blood cells can capsize, they can become imbalanced. The oxygen that they're carrying, it disassociates from them and goes in the blood. It's in the blood, but because they're upside down, it can't get in position to be delivered to tissue. And that's why we have so much chronic fatigue now.
Yeah.
It's just really tremendous.
So you're losing oxygen. So on one hand, there's free radical damage, and on the other, you're really dealing with oxygen deprivation.
Exactly. And that is one of the most chronic, misdiagnosed problems in America.
Yes, indeed.
It's called hypoxia.
Yes, exactly. I do biofeedback, among other things, and I see that show up a lot.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And I mean, we have a number of naturopath practitioners that actually use this product with a biobalancer to help people sustain balance and reduce the assault of radiation, electrical radiation.
So what I understand, Dr. Alaleh, is this began as a product for reducing spiking, which would then in turn reduce electrical costs.
Exactly.
Which is a good thing in itself. It's a good thing. So how is it that you, or I guess it was through this military engineer that you discovered its therapeutic value?
Exactly.
Is that what happened?
Exactly.
So it was almost serendipitous.
Yes.
The way best things happen in this life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when my son,
what happened to your son?
From the hospital and came in the house with these product with this power guard installed, it was like all of a sudden he came back into his sanity. I saw an immediate reaction to the environment.
I mean, when you had this in the house, when he came back in, you saw the change?
Just raging. He woke up angry. He was angry all day long. If you said something to him, that anger escalated.
Oh, my.
All of a sudden, he was able to get in his soul, and I could talk to him without this escalated, disrespectful, disregarding, over-exaggerated behavior.
Hormonal imbalance, etc.
And I began to say, what? Are you serious? I said, wait a minute, let me turn this thing off. Let me just leave it off overnight and see if I get this behavior back in him. And sure enough, he would have this behavior, and I'd turn it back on, and all of a sudden, instantly, he would go back into this calm person. And I began to manipulate this until when it was on, he was going into a normal behavior. When it was off, he had this abstract behavior. And I began to notice it impacted his health. So I began to study this machine and look at his level of being allergic to the environment. And sure enough, I started
to the electrical environment.
Exactly. To the electrical environment, not just electrical environment. I looked at chemicals and radon and everything, because if electricity makes these chemicals and radon stronger and more potential, more potent and more assaultive, I want to be able to start with the major problem first. And if I could lower the electricity, I could dissipate and lower the assault of other things that we had to also mitigate from our environment. So I went to Germany and I went to England to begin to look at other ways for mitigation. I went looking for mitigation. Yeah. And actually I found out a way that I could bioharmonize and use this as an engine, so to speak, for a nanotechnology that could broadcast it into the environment, into the room, so to speak. A nanotechnology that was engineered to keep you balanced. But because it's nano, it has its own energy field, but it can be amplified also by an electrical field. Yes. So I began to use this power guard as a spaceship.
Yes.
As a platform to launch my little spaceship that was in this nanotechnology.
I see. Now this is being used largely to help the physical body be free of the deleterious effects of electromagnetic fields from cell phones or Wi-Fi or sitting at a computer for too long or too closely.
Exactly. That's what it was engineered for.
and this is more for a home or an office, a space.
Exactly.
And this is more for the body.
And what happened, I started traveling and being outside the environment, because I have a number of products with this stuff in it. And I had one that did the whole house. And I'm like, I can't carry this big thing around me with me. So I docked it on the power guard one day, and I was totally blown away that I could not only lower the electrical transients in the wall, especially for sleep.
And the transients is the activity?
Yes.
Essentially?
Yes, the levels of electrical radiation. But I could bioharmonize them. When I say harmonize them, I could actually put this on and strengthened my ability to balance just from the energy that this was emitting. Yes, and it became highly revolutionary because I engineered this because I developed breast cancer. When you are living in highly irradiating environments, women offload iodine, and men too, offload iodine from their breast tissue. And if you are not on an iodine supplement and trace minerals and amino acids, the breast will drain the iodine, you get a rash on the breast, and all of a sudden you start getting black dots, and you wake up one day and your breast is totally black. And this is an epidemic that's happening in Ohio because
really?
we are
in particular?
Yeah, in particular. 80% of our state is classified as a radiation zone 1. So cows, sheep, dogs, and women are getting a condition called black mastitis or black breast syndrome. So I actually, because when you have black mastitis, if you touch anything electrical, it burns the affected breast and makes it have pain like you can't imagine.
So are you finding this is actually remedying that?
Oh, I'm totally healed. I'm the first woman that the doctors at the University of Cincinnati and Cleveland Clinic have ever seen had total black breast syndrome, totally healed, and I didn't have to have my breasts excised.
So did you use any of the standard conventional chemo or radiation therapy or anything of that sort? None.
None. Because see, if you have cancer and you have black mastitis, it's because you're not getting enough oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to look at those factors. Iodine is critical for your ability to hold uptake minerals that allow for oxygen combustion. And so after I went to school to learn about environmental radiation, I then went back and got a practitioner certificate as a certified naturopathic health practitioner. Because in nursing, we don't learn about enzymes and vitamins. I mean, we learn about it, a basic knowledge, but not tissue rehabilitation and not wellness management.
Oh, no. It's all pathology
exactly,
model. I know.
Exactly. And so
So you attribute the reversal of your breast cancer to utilization of this and the cause of it as being in that electrical soup of your house.
Exactly. Once I identified the problem that my house was highly irradiating, I was living in a giant taser gun. And it was offloading my minerals, primarily my iodine. It had energized my bed. So I was sleeping on a highly energized surface like a taser gun.
It's like being plugged into an electroshock therapy system.
Exactly.
I mean, it really is.
Exactly.
It's a less potent form of that.
Exactly. It's like somebody tasing you 24 hours.
Yeah.
24/7 a day. You're being tased.
Now, what's interesting is, though, we know that with small amounts of micro units of electricity, it has a very therapeutic effect.
Yes, because small amounts mimic how our body, they mimic our electric
That's right.
system.
In our cells,
Exactly.
it's the same voltage, essentially.
Exactly. Microcurrent.
But when you start to step it up, then you start to step into trouble, basically.
Exactly. And that's why the power guard was so significant. So what the blessing for me was the engineer was in contact with the gentleman that owns the patent for this power guard.
So come full circle because we're almost out of time. So
okay, and so he said, so when he told the patent owner, Mr. Nick Paranacci, he said, listen, I got a nurse that's going crazy with this device. She thinks it needs to be in medicine, blah, 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 blah. He was like, look, we're going to save people money. I'm not trying to be in the medical world, blah, 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 blah. And I just kept writing him and hounding him and calling him and saying, listen, I'm going to get this thing in medicine. I'm going to get it mapped so that doctors can write prescriptions for it. I think we've found something that's profound for people with brain injuries and autism and seizures, and I think...
And even diabetes. Did you tell me there's a special...
Exactly, because...
A new form of diabetes as a result of electrical pollution?
Exactly. Dr. Magda Havas at Trent University in Canada, her research is so profound that doctors have actually we have a type 3 diabetes. The medical researchers have identified a type 3 diabetes, which comes from electromagnetic radiation assaulting the pancreas and causing so much static communication that the cells become dysfunctional and they cannot make a quality insulin. And people who have diabetes that have purchased these power guards from me, they swear by it. They said it lowers, they have more energy, they don't need as much medication, and we're just talking about lowering the frequencies. We haven't even added the bioharmonic to that.
Yeah, right, which takes it from the neutral to the well, if you will.
But now that we have added the bioharmonic, we're seeing even more health benefits. Yes.
Yeah.
We have people who are blind that have been blind for 4 years now seeing. We have children that have had seizures.
People who have gotten blind or people who were born blind?
No, we're talking about people who had diabetes.
Oh, blindness from diabetic
blind
condition. Yeah.
And then they harmonize and put a bioharmonic on their power guard, yes. And while they're sleeping, it's lowering the field, but it's also supporting their body to uptake oxygen. And their eyes healed from blindness in 4 weeks. The miracles that we're hearing. Yeah. And that's the reason why we have put forth a concerted effort to join our team. And 15 years ago, I went blind while being a doctoral student at Columbia University. I was medically forced to withdraw from school. And this technology won the gold medal for the United States in engineering in 2011. And when my department found out that I had won the gold medal for the United States, this classified as an artificial nerve or a nanobiogenic technology, they called me and they said, Dr. Alaleh, where are you at? I said, well, I'm out here trying to commercialize this product and bring it to market, and I'm trying to bring my buddy, the Power Guard, with me. They said, you better get up to Columbia University. When they found out the research that we had done and what these products can do, they were like, listen, we need a national care model for helping people to lower their exposure to indoor toxins. And I told them that's exactly what I'm trying to do. We are behind Canada. The doctors at Women's College Hospital in Toronto have already mandated that they're going to test patients for electromagnetic hypersensitivity. They have an environmental health clinic, and there is a 13-month waiting list to get in. People are sick.
We're out of time now, but you're not out of information, clearly. So we'll have to have you back on again so we can continue this awesome story that has amazing health benefits for people, and people really need to know about this. So,
well, I want to thank you, first of all, for your concern and certainly having me on your show to share this information, because we want families to be healthy and well.
Definitely. Dr. Alaleh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brilliant material, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mitch.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. I'm awestruck by the implications of all of this. Contact me at www.abetterworld.net or mjr@abetterworld.net, and we'll get you more information on all of this and the work of Dr. Alaleh. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.